I guess just come straight out. You've come out and said you believe President Biden should step down. Explain to me your position, why you believe this.
Well, look, over the last few days, it has seemed like there's a growing, uh, perhaps crescendo of folks, of politicos, of donors, of just people suggesting that it's time for the president to move on. And to be honest, I was most impacted by what I sensed was just people sort of dismissing the president. I happen to, I think it's a really difficult situation. I think it's people, Democrats certainly, but Americans can think about this in different ways. Um, but it just seemed to me that the president was being dismissed. And look, the whole point of this is it feels like this is happening, the process is happening. And I wanted to center the conversation around the fact that I believe President Biden has an enormous amount to contribute to us winning in November. He's the only person who has beat Trump. He has guided the economy through an extremely treacherous moment post-COVID. He's brought us through COVID legislatively in an extraordinarily polarized and fraught kind of legislative environment. He's, created arguably the most impressive political legislative agenda since LBJ, say. So I think he has an enormous role to play in helping Democrats win in November. In my humble view, I just believe that while I love him, while I revere him, I respect him, I think it's best at this point that he help Democrats win, not as the nominee.
Was it the debate? Was it something else that sparked this for you to do this, or was it just an overall feeling that you've gotten over the past, say, month or so?
Well, look, I think I've been responding to the groundswell of people who are suggesting that the party needs to figure out another process to come up with another nominee. And again, I wanted to influence in some small way. I wanted to just try to influence the conversation to elevate the president and his contributions and the rare kind of gifts that he can give to the country right now. So that's really just where I come from on this.
How difficult of a decision is this for you to come out? This has been a real mixed bag because you've had, a groundswell behind the scenes, seemingly, of a lot of Democratic leaders saying this, but not a lot coming forward. This is your time to step forward in a Democratic race where you need these hardcore Democrats to be able to defeat Nancy Mace in this district.
Yeah, no, look, my background's in business. I'm not a politician, and if anything, my inclination is to try to call things as I see them. And so this is just, yeah, it's absolutely, it's very difficult. It's hard, it's gut wrenching. I wish we weren't in this position, but I think when I, kind of think about the first district, when I think about the country, I just feel like this is it's the right move at this time.
And of course, the obvious question would be, if President Biden steps aside, is it Vice President Harris or is it someone else that should be this Democratic leader going into this election?
Well, look, I think Vice President Harris is great. I think she certainly polls slightly better against Trump. So I think there's a lot of reasons. I think there's some logistical reasons why that might make sense. But I'm not really here to talk about that process. There are plenty of people in the party and around the country who are thinking about these kinds of things right now. I just wanted to try to uplift the president and his unique ability to make a contribution to the country right now. And again, look, a lot of this is framed by what the Supreme Court came down with last week, or this week perhaps, about essentially allowing the president carte blanche, and the fact that, in a real way, I believe our republic, our democracy, is at risk. And so, that's what makes this all the more pressing of an issue.
Is there a fear on your part that people will be voting straight ticket in certain situations and affect your race specifically because President Biden may not be the stronger candidate in that presidential race, but instead you're trying to get them to look at your race as well in this case and make sure they vote for you as opposed to just voting a straight ticket on either side.
No, I mean, to be honest, I'm not really haven't sort of extended the logic of my thinking sort of that far. I'm really trying to put people and democracy above kind of even party and politics. It's just what I humbly believe is the right thing to do at this point.
But obviously, this is going to be, I'm going to admit, it may not be the brightest question in the world as I say it to you, but you will support President Biden if he stays in this race 100%.
Absolutely. I support the president. And as I said earlier, I go beyond that. I revere him. I respect him deeply. Um, it is awesome what he has contributed. Look, I think back to what I believe was I sat next to him at an event, an NAACP gala in Charleston back in maybe 2017, early 2017, when he was first beginning to stick his toe in the water to think about running for president. And I had some really warm interactions with him. And if anything, again, I just believe that he has an enormous role in helping to protect democracy and helping to sustain our republic. And I just want to make sure that doesn't get lost in all this.
You believe whoever, if Biden steps aside, whoever takes that role, the Democratic Party and the people can understand who they are in a 4 month period and win this election still?
Well, look, since a lot of this conversation started around a debate, I think there are any number of Democrats who have national presidents who would run circles around former President Trump. I believe certainly the vice president as a former prosecutor would do that. There are a number of governors. So I think Democrats have a strong bench and I think would certainly coalesce around whomever the nominee coming out of the convention will be.